Today we're going to be on a little more of a serious note from normal. But first, I've got a little bit of news for you. As you guys probably noticed, I haven't really uploaded anything this week, and I really apologize for that. I was trying to get around to it, but it was the first week of school, so I've been a little bit busy, a little bit preoccupied, had some stuff going. That's about it on the news, other than the fact that I do have another video coming out today as well. That's going to be my power hour, hopefully today. Maybe I might release it one day later than normal. I did go and film that one, and that was about all I was able to get filmed for this week. I would like to try and get ahead on my recording, that way I can just release as I go, get everything recorded and edited and ready to scheduled and weeks in advance would be nice. But I do like releasing week by week, that way I can talk to people in the comments and I can change my videos based on what people are liking. That's about it for the news. The video today is more serious from what I normally do. I've done a few kind of serious things with the Generation Next. I'm kind of touching on things similar to that, but it's a little bit more intense, and it's something that I've had a problem with, something that I'm sure a lot of people out there, even people you guys may have had a problem with. And I thought about talking about it in a Draw My Life series, video. So, but I changed my mind. I didn't really want to do that yet because I don't know if you guys really care. So, if you do want to see it, be sure to let me know, comment down below, and I will definitely do that. I just don't really, I don't know. I don't like just strictly talking about myself. So, um, but I will if that's what you guys want to see. Anyway, what I want to talk about today, though, is depression. And it relates to why I haven't been uploading videos the last few days, and it relates to pretty much everything that's happened in my life, and I'm sure a lot of other people have experienced the same thing. And so, to kind of make the long story shorter here, before I started YouTube, a couple years ago actually, it was 2013, I enlisted in the Army. And I had always battled depression before that, but it wasn't really anything super serious. And when I enlisted, I was doing pretty well. I went off to basic training. I enjoyed it. Got back. Didn't quite do things as great as I wanted to while I was out there. I didn't achieve what I necessarily wanted to, but I try not to beat myself up over it because of the fact that when I did enlist, I was extremely fat. And I know that's kind of harsh, but I went from about, I don't even know, I think it took me like 17 or 18 minutes to run 1 mile when I enlisted. And when I got out of basic training, I could run 2 miles in about 15 minutes. And so I don't know why I beat myself up over that because I did a lot. I mean, I went down right before I enlisted. I was pushing 275, 280 pounds. And then by the time I actually shipped out to basic training, I was down to 230. And when I got back from basic training, I was at 200 on the dot. And so I was pretty proud of myself for that. So I don't really beat myself up over it, but for some reason, I always had this depression that really resonated with me. And anyway, I don't want to spend this whole time talking about my problems too much, other than when I finally got out of the army, the reason was I had gone up to our capital city and sat down and talked with a psychiatrist, and um, he he didn't necessarily diagnose me officially, and I don't do doctors that well, especially head doctors, because there's a lot of fucked up stuff in my head. So this guy basically said he believes I have manic depression, and he sent me on my way. And at that point, I signed all my paperwork, and I was done. I was out of the military because of it, and no chance to talk about it really. They didn't give me any help. They more or less just said it's I mean I talked to some people and they were like, if this is like, I thought I wanted out at the beginning, but I also knew that I didn't just want out, I wanted help. And they didn't really offer me help alongside it. They just kind of said goodbye. And but that's just kind of my story with that. And so I got diagnosed by this guy with manic depression, and I don't know how official it is. There's probably paperwork out there somewhere that says it. And I came back home and I was gone out of the military, and I've spent a good portion of my life fighting to be in the military. That was always one of my dreams. And I took it pretty hard, honestly. I thought it was going to help because when I was like being in the army and facing that manic depression, if that's what you want to call it, really messed with my head. It made me really upset all the time. I was always down. I was lazy beyond belief. I couldn't get myself to work out. I couldn't get myself to get out of bed half the time. And I was also working on the side as well, somewhere else. And my, I never wanted to go to work. I never wanted to get up. And I didn't have a bad job. I loved that job, but I just couldn't get myself to do things. And I wasn't in school anymore. I was just kind of drinking all the time. And that's when I started smoking cigarettes and, a lot of other things that just kind of messed with me. And, I mean, to this day, I still drink, but I don't drink the way I used to. Used to, honestly, and I don't really tell a lot of people this, but I want to talk to it with you guys because this whole topic is something that's very touchy, and a lot of people feel like they're alone. And I want you to know that you're not alone because, especially when I left the military, but I had gone to college, moved out of my house at like 17. It was like a week after I graduated high school and went off to college, and everything was fine until I joined the military, and everything was still fine. I loved it, but I just wasn't all there mentally. And then I left college and left the army and was working a lot, and I started drinking to numb pain. I didn't want to feel anymore. And part of it was I'm a quiet person normally, which I'm not really anymore because the army kind of messed with that too. For the better. Now I can talk to anyone I want to, but even at that time, I was still kind of a quiet person, and alcohol brought that out of me. It made me, more relaxed, more crazy, I guess, and fun. And but around that time, I thought that people only wanted to hang out with me when we were drinking, which I mean, a few people did. I lived on my own down the road from the college campus, and a lot of my friends just they wanted to come over and drink because we could there and they couldn't there. So that's something that I dealt with then as well. But me personally, when it comes to the depression, I got diagnosed with manic depression. And for those of you that don't know, manic depression is kind of like being bipolar with no ups. I mean, bipolar is very uh, there's like spikes. I mean, you'll have weeks and weeks where you're way up here mentally, you're happy, you're having a good time, but you're overly excited all the time. And then you'll have dips where you're just all the way at the bottom, extremely depressed, and you can't get yourself to move. So manic depression and bipolar are very closely related, and most terms they're identical. A lot of times nowadays, bipolar is used instead of manic depression, and they are very similar. Um, I mean, my psychology teacher says they're very similar, and manic depression is kind of an older version of bipolar. But I've also heard a lot of people, and like the doctor who diagnosed me, that said they're not the same, even though they're used interchangeably nowadays, because bipolar has those ups and downs. You're really happy one day, really depressed one day, and it goes back and forth. But if you look at it like a chart, and I might put one on the screen so you guys can see, um, bipolar spikes. I mean, you have your flat line here, which is your normal attitude, and then you have your like really happy days and your really low days that go on either side of that, and it kind of just spikes back and forth. And so one day you'll be really peppy, really happy, really good, and then the next day you can't get out of bed because you're so depressed. Manic depression, on the other hand, and don't quote me on this because I'm not a doctor, But from what I've been told and what I personally experience is I very rarely have the up spikes. And from what I've been told, manic depression tends to be where you have your flat level and it drops and goes back to your flat level. It rarely ever goes above that. You can be here, which is good. It's a great balance of emotions, is what that is. And so every now and then you just kind of dip below and you might spend months below, but then all of a sudden you have a month where you're here again and you're very productive, things are going great. And while with bipolar, when you're spiking above it, you tend to not uh, be in a good state, because I've had friends who are bipolar, and when they're having their up spikes, they act like they're invincible. They're like, nothing can get me down, nothing can hurt me, nothing can bother me, which is, I guess, good, but at the same time, it's not human. It's kind of like going from being overly emotional to being no emotion at all. While when you're in the middle, at least you can get a balance of both. And that's kind of where bipolar was, and from my personal experience, and that might not be exactly correct, but then manic depression is where you kind of bounce between normal and down more, and you hit a lot more lows than bipolar normally does. And that's kind of what I've seen myself. The past week or so, I've really been experiencing it. um, I mean, I've been out of work for a little while. I got laid off in June, and so that kind of bothered me. And then when class ended at the end of, what was that? The very end of July, I think it was the first week of August, is when class ended. I was kind of lost. I mean, I had YouTube, but I didn't have anything to do because I don't have work right now. And so I was really low a lot and feeling really low. And then on top of that, um, I have like a bad history with women, for instance, and um, I have like these commitment issues and things. So I'm keeping myself from communicating with people on purpose, with a lot of different people, because normally when I communicate with people, I tend to keep myself where there's no just friends with me a lot of times, because I don't know. It's hard to explain, and it's a topic for maybe a draw my life video or something. But I've been trying to keep myself single, for instance, and alone for the most part, because I realized I really need to work on who I am before I help anyone else, or before I'm with anyone else. And I do enjoy it, but at the same time, that not talking to people kind of makes it come back a lot worse, because for a long time when I was drinking all the time, I always had friends around too, so it really helped my depression level out. And anyway, enough about me with this though. What I really wanted to talk about was for you guys. I mean, a lot of people out there suffer from mental illness of all kinds, not just depression, not just manic depression, not just bipolar. That just happens to be what I've fought the most. But I want you to know, which I'm bad at taking my own advice, but you're never alone. And that's something you always have to realize. There's a lot of other people out there, there's a lot of support groups online. And me personally, I can't get myself to go to a doctor. I should, but I mean, there's nothing they can really do. I find my best help with fighting anything is to manage it myself, and to surround myself with friends when I need to sit by myself when I need to. And that tends to help me the most. And we all have our different cures though, and I really don't want to be put on medication, and that's one of my biggest things is I don't want to take medication. I don't feel like being on medication, and no one could ever get me to. I mean, it's just something I don't like. And I'm not saying that it's the devil and that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, me personally, I don't want to do it. So I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And the moral of all of this is to seek help. And down in the description is a link to my Facebook page for Mr. Bull 897, and on there you can message me. And if there's something you want to talk about or an experience you want to share, feel free to message me on there. Feel free to reply to this video or comment on something where you can talk about it, anything. It doesn't matter. And if you're with this video, I normally don't care about what comments get posted. But with this video, if you're going to be hateful, I'm going to delete your comment because if anyone wants to talk about what's going on, it's a safe place here. There might be people who judge you, but they can go fuck themselves. With things that are insulting me, I really don't care. So I normally don't delete things like that, which I don't really have many of those anyway. But if it's something to be insulting um, my subscribers, or even if you're not a subscriber, anyone who's just stumbling across this video, then I don't want your insults here against them. And if it's something you don't want to mention on my page, you can message me and I'll talk with you about it. I started YouTube because I want to help people, and I really want people to see the brighter side in life. I know that when I'm down a lot, all I'll do is I'll sit and watch some of my favorite YouTubers, and I want you guys. My biggest goal is to inspire people to do the same. Um, it really helps when you can have, whether it's, some people take solace in their friends, some people take solace in just sitting around watching TV. It really just depends person to person, and I know a lot of people do watch YouTube because it feels like a community, a sense of belonging, and a lot of people like to watch their favorite YouTubers so they can feel that way. And that's why I started YouTube. I want people to feel that way. I want people to know that I'm here to talk to. And I'm not going to say that I'm different from other YouTubers, but one of my biggest goals is I want to be reachable to almost anyone. Now, I understand with YouTubers who have a couple million subscribers, it's hard to reply to people who are messaging you because you're going to have a lot of messages. Well, my goal is to always try my best to respond to everyone. And right now I have such a small crowd that I can definitely respond to everyone. So, like I said, my Facebook's down in the description. So if it's something you don't want to say on here, then by all means message me on there. Um, I want us to kind of come together. Anyone who might find this video helpful, anyone who might find YouTube in general helpful for managing their mental illness, or anyone who just needs someone to talk to. I want my community, my YouTube community, which is extremely small right now, but I want it to be about that. Not necessarily about mental illness, but about that community, that conversation where people can talk to each other, not just talk to me. You can talk to each other about me if you want, but I want you guys to communicate with each other because especially as I grow, I wish I could, but I don't think I'll be able to communicate with everyone individually. But it's going to be my mission to, and that's why I have Facebook where you guys can directly message me, and that comes through on my phone, unlike most things. And so you can directly message me on there if you want to talk about anything. If you guys want to know more about my story, there's a lot more to it. Let me know, and I'll do a draw my life or something similar to that. Depression's a really strong beast, and I would like to bring awareness to it. A little information on how I feel, and I know we all express and handle and cope with things differently. Um, I find when I can drag myself out of bed and do things that it gets a little bit better. Exercise is one of those. I did leg day the other day, and oh my God, I couldn't walk. I fell down the stairs a couple times. It was pretty bad. Anyway, we all cope a little bit differently, but what my depression in particularly does is, and the weird thing with me is it's not sparked by any one thing, and that's why it's a term like manic depression. There is such thing as like postpartum depression or PTSD. There's a lot of other things that are associated with depression too, and then there's also simple things. I mean, depression can manifest itself in you lost a family member, you're grieving, you're depressed, things like that, and that can cause it. And normally, nowadays, we've gotten to a point in society where every little feeling of depression is clinically diagnosed, which I think is wrong. I think that we all have our ups and downs, whether you have something like being bipolar or not. There's depression that is caused by a life event, and there's depression that is caused by chemical imbalances, and they're two different things. And a lot of times when it's a life event, unless it's caused PTSD or something similar to that, then your depression will go away eventually. I mean, you'll have your downs, but if it's caused by your life event, you can find ways to crawl out of that hole and cope with it. When it's something along the lines of manic depression, PTSD, bipolar, almost any other disorder that's a true deep disorder, that's the chemical imbalances in your brain that fire back and forth. Those, on the other hand, a lot of times require pills, which I'm not a huge fan of pills, but it helps some people. And it also tends to trigger deeper depression. So I find that when I find a way to cope with my level of depression, and my level of depression has been to the point of wanting to end everything. And I've had times where I can't get out of bed. And when I do try to get out of bed, I just I just consider how easy life would be if I didn't exist anymore. And I don't really ever do that. And the way I think of it is people would tell me it's the opposite, but I consider myself a coward. And at times, not all the time, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, well, I did the right thing. But other times I look at it and all I can think of is I'm a coward because I simply just can't get myself to end it. And but I keep holding on. Well, with me personally, that's kind of how my depression manifests itself. I never had a specific life event to trigger it. I mean, I wasn't dealt the best hand of cards. And that's something that I would talk about if you guys want me to go deeper into it. But there was just nothing like we all have our ups and downs in life, and I've had my fair share, but there was nothing that just all of a sudden I'm depressed. It's just kind of piled on, and it gets worse. And I have days, I have months. Like when I first started doing YouTube, I was in a very high point with my attitude. And this last month is just kind of, I don't know why. I just hit a low. And I find myself slacking off on things. I slack off on my homework. I slack off on work. And in fact, that's why I got laid off. And then I slack off on recording and editing. And that just tends to happen when I'm really feeling it. And so those are just a few symptoms I experience. I experience the inability to sleep, a lot of insomnia. I'll stay up all night long, almost every night. Right now while I'm filming, it's 12:45 a.m. and I woke up. I finally got myself to go to bed about noon yesterday, and then I woke up at about 6 p.m. today. And now it's 12:45 a.m. I'm probably not going to bed till about noon again, even if I wanted to. And that's just something that I see a lot when I feel this way. And there's a lot of other symptoms that kind of come along it with it, but I'm sure you all have your own story. We all feel it differently. It hits us all differently. And if you don't experience any of this, if you don't have anything related to depression or mental illness, I want to raise awareness for those people as well. The people who don't experience mental illness, sometimes they get confused by it. Sometimes they don't know how to talk to someone with it. And the biggest tip I can give you if you're watching this because maybe you're wanting to know how to speak to a loved one who's suffering from some form of depression or mental illness, or you have friends that are anything, and you want to learn more about it, the biggest tip I can give you is don't treat them like they're different. Don't treat those people like you pity them. That's something that I really hate. I like just being treated like I'm part of the group, being included. So, mental illness is a dark beast. Um, I'm in psychology this semester, which is kind of funny. And there's something that we were talking about, and it's only been 2 days in class so far, but we've been talking about how mental illness is an extremely young science. It's only been around for, well, psychology itself is a really young science. It's only been around for a little while in comparison to other sciences. And the reason is because used to mental problems weren't really considered real. I mean, most people just lived by, well, if you didn't like your life, you ended it. Most people just believed that if you were depressed, you were possessed by a demon once upon a time. And that's something that needs to change, and the science is extremely young and it's growing. And to this day, people still don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to talk to people with mental illness or depression. And now this video is starting to get kind of long. Um, my biggest goal is to raise that awareness. I want people, I mean, I want to use my YouTube channel for a lot more than gaming. I mean, that's probably obvious because I've posted a lot of videos that weren't related to gaming. I want to talk about things that I'm passionate about. Um, and in order to do that, I want you guys to see me as an open book. I really am. There's some stuff that I won't go into detail with, but if you guys want to see a Draw My Life, be sure to comment down below or message me, let me know. If you need someone to talk to, you're not alone here. I've had my fair share of issues, and I'm no saint, I'm no doctor, but if you need someone to just express how you're feeling, then just let me know. Message me on Facebook. That's why I have that there. I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And if you want to comment down below, feel free to do that. I'll reply to just about any comment. Now, if you're posting hate comments about me, I won't care. But if you post hate comments about anyone else, just about anything offensive with someone that's expressing anything, I will delete it. So I want this to be kind of a safe environment for you guys. I've taken my fair share of beatings, so I don't care what people say about me. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video. It's getting a little long. Just stay strong and know that you're not alone. And maybe I'll come back with that Draw My Life so you guys can see my full challenges, what I've been through, what I've faced, and the biggest thing is my story doesn't have a happy ending. Not yet. I'm working on getting it there, and that's why I don't want to do the video just yet. Is because I've changed and I've evolved, but my story doesn't have a happy ending. Not yet. And that's the way to look at it. I don't have a happy ending yet, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to. I'm fighting for it. Anyway, guys, I'm Mr. Bull 897. Feel free to message me on anything. If you want, leave a like if this helped you at all, if it brought some awareness. I know it wasn't extremely informative because I'm not a doctor. I just want people to know that a lot of YouTubers face this same feeling. A lot of people around the world face this. A lot of celebrities have issues like this. And it needs awareness. So leave a like. If you want to, go ahead and subscribe or comment down below. I'm not doing this video for subscribers. I'm not doing it to get subscribers. So I'm not going to sit there and say to subscribe like I normally do. It's a lot different from most of my content. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm Mr. Bull 897. I'm going to be signing out.